What's up, y'all? Mr. Cash 22. Listen, like, comment, subscribe down below. Whew, let's get to it. All right, factor the trinomial. So let's say you get something like this, okay? You see that there's a w squared written here, minus 7w plus 10. Just take your time, like I said, take deep breaths, don't rush, slow it down. So first thing is first that we know is it's a w squared. So we know that there's two w's, and by that what I mean is w times w will give you w squared, okay? So that's a no-brainer. So you put two parentheses down, correct? Put a w here, put a w there. Next, alright, next for those who this is kind of new to, it might get a little more tricky. But like I said, take your time. Alright, so now that we see we have a positive 10 here, but we have a negative 7. So right off the bat, we know that the type of signs that we'll be using, it's going to be a negative and a positive, or negative and a negative, okay? So we already know it can't be two addition signs, okay, because there's a negative number. So that negative sign has to come in either right here or right here. All right, so in order to break this down even more, this 10 right here, okay, we have to find two numbers whose product is 10. And what I mean by that is we have to take one number times another number that will give us 10. Okay, so we know 10 times 1 is 10, but there's also 5 times 2, which is 10, okay? And you're probably thinking, well, which one do I pick? Well, the goal is whatever number you pick, this middle number, correct, with these two numbers that you have right here, has to also equal this 2. So check this out. So we know, like I said, it'll be either a negative and a positive or a negative and a negative. So if you have two negative numbers, think about this. Two negative numbers, correct? And you're multiplying both those negative numbers, it will give you a positive number. So, alright, so we have a negative here and a negative there. And then, like I said, we have a negative 7 as well. So then you also have to think, okay, if I do negative 1, let's say for instance I did 10 times 1, which gives you, 10. If I did negative 1 minus 10, correct? That's not going to give me negative 7, okay? But if I did negative 5 plus negative 2, that will give me negative 7. And if I multiply negative 5 times negative 2, that will give me 10. So bingo. That's your answer. And then if you want to verify, that's what you should always do, okay? It should look something like this. W squared, negative 2w, negative 5w, positive 10. So then you got to add the like terms, okay? So you get w squared minus 7w plus 10. Bingo. Bingo. Okay, so that verifies and checks out. But let's say you have this 2 right here and this 5 right here. It still works even if you were to verify it. So you can give it a chance yourself, okay? But for time purposes, I just want to keep on going. But usually, just FYI, just to give you a heads up, don't always assume that. Just because you mix up these two numbers that if you flip them, the other way, that you'll get the same exact original problem. That's always the case. So like I said, always verify no matter what. Alright, so number 2. And there'll probably end up being a part 2 for this because the section's kind of lengthy. There's a lot to kind of teach. But let's say you had something written like this. Like I said, rinse, wash, and repeat. Don't overthink it. You already looked at that and you saw that there's a p squared. So you automatically know it's p times p because that gives you square. Now there's two additions, okay? So if you think about it, there's no negative sign. So having a negative number here should be the last thing on your mind, okay? So, because if you think about it, if you have a negative number plus another negative number, you get a negative sum, negative answer. Or if you have a negative product times another negative, product, you get a positive sum. So, but at the end of the day, you can already tell there's two addition signs here. So you should just stick with having two addition signs as well. So next, in order to figure out, same rules applies. You have to think about two numbers whose product is 8. So the two numbers, okay, so you have obviously 8 times 1, which will give you 8, or you also have 4 times 2, which can give you 8. So if you think about it, you have 4 here, you have a 2 there, correct? And also, by the way, don't worry if you make mistakes. Like I said, verifying your answer is always the best thing to do. So you get p squared plus 2p plus 4p plus 8, which gives you p squared plus 6p plus 8. Okay, so that verifies as well. So you're good, you're in the clear. And like I said, let's say there's a 2 here and a 4 there, give it a try. See if you get the same original problem. Okay, alright, so next, number 3. And don't worry, there might be a part 2, because obviously this is just the beginning, and usually it gets obviously a lot more complex than this. So let's say you had something written like this as well. Okay, how do you solve a question like this? Same rule applies. You can already see there's an x squared right there. Okay, so I'll bring this up a little higher for you guys to see. Okay, so you already know there's going to be an x here, an x there. So kind of like what we did right here with number 1, there's negative, positive. You can see that there's negative and positive written as well here. So in order for us to kind of solve this question, I'll probably end up moving this over. Okay, same rule applies. We have to think about two numbers whose product will give us 12. And if you think about that, you have 4 times 3, which gives you 12. You also have 6 times 2, okay, and you also have the 12 times 1. So like I said, break it down, write it down, think about it, take your time. With math, there's really no rush. Just make sure you understand what you're doing. So same rule applies with this question as well. What we're going to do is we're going to have a negative sign here and a negative sign there, because if you do negative times a negative number, you get a positive number, and there's also a negative sign right there. So if we think about it as well, I gave a few options. I gave you the 12 times 1, which gives you 12, 6 times 2, which gives you 12, and then the 4 times 3, which gives you 12. Okay, so quite a few options. Our goal is to think about two numbers. When you multiply them, will give you 12, but when you add them as well, will give you 8. This doesn't do the trick. 4, let's say you have 4 plus 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That doesn't do the trick. If you add 6 plus 2, 6 plus 2 does give you 8. So that looks like this might be the one right here. So same rule applies. We'll put the 6 here, we'll put the 2 here, and then we'll make sure to see if we can verify that. So x is 6, x squared minus 2x minus 6x minus 12, x squared minus 8x plus 12. Okay, so that looks like it verifies with the original question that was given. Alright, let's keep going. I feel like you guys are starting to get the hang of this. Let me just throw in probably like 2 more. 4, and I'll probably do a part 2. Like I said, this section is kind of a little lengthy. So number 4, let's say you had something written like this. Okay, so you're probably sitting here thinking, how do I proceed with the question? Something like this. Okay, so same rule applies. Just do what you know. Don't overthink anything. Be patient. So if we look at this right here, see that there's an x squared. Okay, if you look at this down here, we see that there's a y squared. Okay, so in order to solve that, like I said, same rule applies. Like pretty much everything, x times x will give you x squared, and y times y will give you y squared. So if you get your parentheses out, because this is trinomial, So it's going to have two parentheses just written like this, correct? You have an x right here, and you have an x right here. You have a y right here, and you have a y right there. Okay, so that fulfills that, okay? So now we don't have to worry about that. Now what we have to worry about is the 6x and the negative 27. Okay, so you're probably sitting here thinking, well, how do I figure that out? So you have to find two products who will give you 27, okay? And then when you add the two numbers that you picked, it should give you 6, okay? That's how you just break it down and think about it, okay? So if you think about two numbers, that will give us 27, but you have to also remember it's negative 27, okay? So by default, we know, okay, whatever sign we use, we have to make sure that the sign we use is the correct sign, okay? So by default, we should already know that two negative numbers multiplied will give us a positive 27. But if we have a negative number multiplied by a positive number, it will give us a negative 27, okay? So therefore, one of these signs has to be positive and the other one has to be negative, okay? So let's say this is negative and let's say that this is positive, okay? So then therefore, proceeding on, we also have to figure out, all right, what two numbers will give us 27? So we have 27 times 1 and we have 9 times 3, okay? So 9 times 3 will also give us 27. So now here's the tricky part. So now remember how I was kind of saying, oh, let's say you accidentally flip these two numbers and you can sometimes get the original question. This one we have to be a lot careful. And the reason why I say that is, let's say hypothetically, I'll take out my pencil. Let's say hypothetically we wrote it like this. Okay? So when you're trying to verify to see if you did it correctly, you get x squared, get a positive 9x, negative 3x, and a negative 27. Okay? So if you add this number right here, because you got to add like terms, you get x squared minus 6, not minus, positive, so you get x squared plus 6x minus 27. Because this is a positive 9 minus 3. So in other words, it's just saying 9 minus 3, okay, which gives you 6. Okay, this does not equal this, because this says negative. You see what I was saying? So there's going to be some times where you have to be careful on where you place your numbers with the symbol that you use, you know, whether it's addition or subtraction, okay? So looking at this, we already know, all right, this does fulfill the negative 27 and it does fulfill the 6, but our problem is this is a positive 6. So in other words, this 9 should be here and this 3 should be flipped to the other side, okay? So it should be negative 9, it should be positive 3. So then we'll give it a try and see if that verifies as well. Okay, so x minus, and by the way, when I did this, I forgot to include the y, which is perfectly fine. So don't like worry about it. That was just my example. So the fact that I didn't put the y here, it's perfectly fine. This was incorrect anyways. So x minus 9y times x plus 3y. Alright, so let's give it a try and verify. So x squared plus, you get the x right here and you get the y, 3xy, and then you have the negative 9y times your x right here, you get negative 9xy. And that's what you would always do if you ever have two variables. You always go like alphabetical order, by the way. You can do either or, but it's a lot easier. And then last but not least, you have negative 27y squared. Okay, so when you add like terms, you get x squared minus 6xy. The reason why it's like that is because you have a positive 3xy and you have a negative xy. So in other words, it's just saying negative xy plus 3xy. Okay. And last but not least, negative 27y. So this looks like the original problem. So therefore this is correct. And for this example that I showed you, let me get another piece of paper just to show you quick. Since I did not include the y, but you kind of got the basic understanding of that, huh? Let me see. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, you did this, 3y x plus 9y. Okay, so let's say it was written like this. Same. You get x squared, and this is a positive, so it's positive 9xy. This is a negative, okay, because we're just doing the FOIL method. You get negative 3xy, and then you get negative 27y squared. Okay, so let's say you have something like this. Then like terms, you have this right here, you have this right here. You'll get x squared. This is just basically saying 9 minus 3, okay? In other words, so you get positive 6, and you just add the variables, minus 27. Okay, so this is what I was trying to show you. Alright, be careful, like I said, where you place the 3 and the 9, or with any numbers that you're given. That's why I said always double check, because this right here does not equal the original problem that was given. Okay, because there's a negative and we got a positive. So there you go. Like I said, part 2 will be coming up soon. Like I said, it's a lengthy chapter. Might go to even part 3, but you guys kind of get the basic now. Like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email. Wish you guys the best of luck, and keep going hard in math. Good luck, y'all.